Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be servicing the wagon, and I normally do this every 6 months. So I've had the van maybe just over a year and I've serviced it twice. So this is the third service today. And what we're going to be changing is the oil, obviously. So we'll get new oil for it. We've got a oil filter, we've got a air filter, we've got a diesel filter. So that's the main parts that we're going to be using today. We've also got new screen wash. I've noticed that my coolant's getting down quite a lot. I've not noticed any obvious leaks. So, and I've not noticed any water leaking into the oil or anything, so it could just be a pipe, maybe just with a wee tear in it or something. So I'm going to be putting this in it today. I don't know if it will do anything, but it's always a little step we can take before replacing the whole cooling system, which I don't really fancy doing. So we'll be putting that in it today to try and seal any cracks or anything, and then of course topping it up with brand new coolant. I'm also going to do something that a lot of people don't really do this. A lot of people disagree with this method, but every time I service my van or my cars or anything, I always put a little bit of Redex in it. So normally what I do is before the service starts, I'll put a full tank of diesel in it, half a bottle of Redex, and that just makes sure there's clean fuel going into the new filter, and also sort of services the injectors in a way. So we'll go over to the fuel station, give it a full tank of diesel, half a bottle of Redex, and then we'll come back, and by that point the engine will be warm enough to drop the oil, so that the oil's nice and thin, so that when we drain the oil it just comes out nice and easy, and it's not really thick. So it means we get the most oil out of the engine, so that when we top it up again it's mostly all brand new oil. So we'll get going just now. Always got to be prepared, COVID-19 and all that. Let's go. That says full tank of fuel, full tank of diesel, half a bottle of Redex. I don't know if it works, but it can't do any bad. Just put a wee bit of the Redex in, full tank of diesel, brand new diesel filter, everyone's a winner. So, so that's that done. That's always the first thing I do. And now it's back home, we'll drop the oil, change the filters, new oil, and that should be us good to go. Alright, so see you back at the house. So that's me back. We've put in a full tank of diesel in it, we've put the Redex in it, so that's that part ticked off. And what we'll do now is the driveway that I'm working on today is kind of sloped forward, so we're going to raise the front end of the van up, and that means the whole van's going to be nice and level. The oil's going to drain out evenly, and it actually works in my favour. It means that the front end's going to be lifted up, so it's easier to get underneath the van to get into the sump plug. So what we'll do just now is we'll get the jack and we'll jack up the van. So we're just going to jack the van up, and just here, just right there, that's where your jacking point is, and I wouldn't advise to jack it up anywhere else. You could jack it up from the axle or the wishbone, but again I wouldn't advise anyone to do it. I would always use the jacking points. So we'll get the jack and we'll place it under there and we'll get going. Time to do the other side. So that's us ready to remove the sump plug. Usually you would take the engine guard off to get access to the sump plug. Just makes things easier, stops the oil getting in behind the engine guard as well. But one of my bolts, in fact 2 of my bolts for the engine guard, just the threads that it goes into, just keeps spinning and spinning. So I'm not bothered about it. What I do is I'll just put a sheet down just to catch any bits of oil, and just give it a really good wipe after you're done with it, and that should be fine. It's one less part to take off as well. So we'll get taking the sump plug off just now, and we'll drop the oil. So that right there is the sump plug, and that gets you access to the sump. The sump sits at the bottom of the engine, and that's where all the oil gets collected and then put straight back up to the top of the engine. And this is what we're going to use to get access to the sump plug. It's an M10 multi-spline, and it's a 1/2 inch, and believe it or not, I've just misplaced recently. I've just misplaced my 1/2 inch ratchet, so the only 1/2 inch tool I've got is this breaker bar. But that should be absolutely fine, as long as when we're tightening the sump plug back up, we just be really gentle, because they're quite easy to damage. You should be using a torque wrench, but that's just something I don't really have. I've been working on this van quite a lot, and I'm quite used to the force that you need to put into tighten different things up. So we'll get going anyway. Here it comes. Lovely. There it is there. And you will, if you're not fast enough, you'll get your hands absolutely covered in oil. But that's fine. Well, it's not fine. You should be wearing gloves, because oil can be really bad for your hands. That's all I can say about that. No wearing gloves. Rules, breaking the rules, breaking the rules. So while that's draining away, we'll go up and we'll start the filters. So right on top of the engine, every engine's different, but in this one, right in the top, that's where the air filter is. It's quite a big air filter housing, so we need to take the whole housing right off the engine, separate it apart and get access into the filter. So we'll do that just now. So first of all, what we need to do is just detach the air feed, which goes into the air filter housing. Just need to detach it from this part here. It just simply unplugs, just like that. So that's the air feed off now, and the air filter housing is just attached on. It's just attached on with these wee things here. There's one here, there's one up there, and there's also one just underneath the pipe that goes into the turbo. So what we'll do is, it's just a simple case of lifting it up like that, and this one in here needs to be pushed that way so it completely releases. And to make it easier as well, we just detach the pipe that goes to the turbo. We've got this electric part here, we'll just take it off with a Torx bit. Just take that off like that and put the screw back in so we don't lose it. So that's the air filter housing. It's just got some screws along there, there's 4 along here, and the other side it's just some clips. So we'll get to this in a little bit. We'll just take the oil filter off just now. So that right there, just in here, you might not be able to see it, but that's your oil filter. In different cars, it can be in different places, But we'll take this off just now, and the tool we're going to be using is this here. It's an oil filter chain, and all it does is it just secures into this here. I just found my 1/2 inch ratchet as I was looking for this, so that's good. It will help us get the sump plug on a lot easier. So all you do is you get a 1/2 inch extension. So you put the chain round the oil filter, you loosen it to take up the slack. There we go. That's it. There we go. And that just screws off now. Just watch, because oil will pour out the bottom if you're not quick. And there you go. So that's it upside down just now. But I'll give you a demonstration of how the oil filter chain works. So that's your oil filter chain. Put it round the oil filter. Take up the slack like that. And then as you turn the ratchet, that will turn the oil filter off. So that's how that works. It's a really handy bit of kit. I've seen a lot of people, when they struggle getting oil filters off, they just get a screwdriver and chap it right through and then turn the screwdriver, and that seems to get it off. But a lot of the time what you're doing is you're putting tiny wee bits of metal in the system, and that will fall down into your engine or into your sump, and it can be really harmful. So you want to try and avoid that method, but of course if you've not got an oil filter chain, then it's the only thing you can do. So that's your oil filter. So we're now going to move on to our diesel filter, which sits right here. So you'll see that these pipes, they're all coloured. This one's white, red, blue and green. And you'll notice that there's dots next to them, and the dots are colour coded. I've got a rag just to wipe up all the bits there. And these have just got little buttons at each side. You just press them in and they just come straight off. It's quite a simple design. Okay, so that's the part's been disconnected now. It's just time to pull it up. So that's your diesel filter there. We'll set this to the side and we'll take it apart and we'll see what kind of state it's in. I cannot believe this. I've just went and got my new diesel filter. There's an extra hole at the bottom. That should not be there. They do this all the time. I bought these parts from Euro car parts, and it must just be my luck. Every single time I order something, at least one of the parts is wrong. I'm really disappointed with that. I cannot believe this. You buy parts and you get all excited thinking that's it, the job's going to get done, and then they end up forgetting to put parts in, or they put the wrong parts in. Oh, right, okay. So we're just going to need to put the old diesel filter back in. Disappointed. Oh well. Because we've taken this filter off, and unfortunately we've had to put it back on, it doesn't matter even if it was a new one, we need to bleed the system of air. Normally you would do that by priming the engine, by turning the ignition on, and that primes the diesel filter. You do that a few times and that seems to prime the engine. But this engine that I'm working on is quite handy. It's got a little pump down here, and if you pump that, you might see the fuel going through the lines. There's some air bubbles, so you just give that a few pumps. So that's most of the air bubbles away, but what we'll do is, once we've done the full service, we'll still prime it a couple of times just to make sure before we start it up. So that's the diesel filter changed. We'll now move on to the air filter. We'll just change that, get the oil filter back on, and then we'll top up with oil. So we're just going to change the air filter. So this is the filter housing that I was talking about. So there's 4 screws along here, and these screws are Torx bits. So I'll get the Torx bit and I'll show you what size it is. That's the Torx bit there, it's a T30, and that fits those screws there. Now bear in mind when you're changing your air filter, make sure your hands are fairly clean. You don't want to get any dirt on your new filter. What I tend to do is just, wipe my hands as best as I can, and then try my best not to touch the actual filter element. Literally just little screws, and they've got the Torx bit there on the end. So we'll just set these safe to the side there, and we'll open up this. So as it says, it just opens like that. And wow, look how manky that is. And as I says, when buying parts, they always get the order wrong. Last time I serviced my van, they got the wrong air filter. It was just slightly too big, and I'd already started the job. Same with this, I don't check the parts. I end up just getting stuck in and finding out that the parts are wrong. That's what happened last time, and that's why that air filter's so dirty. It still works, but it's just a bit manky. I took it out a few weeks ago just to give it a shake about, give it a clean, and I've done that every so often, but now it's time to actually replace it. I just hope that this filter actually fits. It's a Fram one. A lot of people don't like Fram products. I just buy whatever the cheapest one is. Sometimes it's Lucas, sometimes it's Fram. It really just depends. And as I says, do not touch the filter part if your hands are dirty. Even if your hands are clean, just don't touch it. You don't need to. So just take it out. So that's it there. And you'll see that there's a foam part in the bottom. Some people keep that on. I tend to take it off. I've heard it restricts the airflow. It's always good just to give the inside of the housing just a little clean. Sometimes there's dust inside. It doesn't really matter if it looks clean, then it is clean. All you're really looking for is just big bits of dirt, which this one doesn't really have. I always make sure it's clean every time I service it, so it's in quite good condition. A lot of people like to give it a right good clean with some brake cleaner if it's really dirty, but this one's fine. So there we go, we'll get the air filter back in now. So this part is the part where the air goes into, and you want the thicker part, this part here, to be facing towards where the air comes into. So that's how it should sit in the filter housing, and that just presses down nice and gentle. That presses down nice and gentle so that the rubber part is nice and flush. And then all we do is just put the top of the housing back on, just like this. And one side, as you can see, it clips in. So, just like that. And it doesn't need to be really tight. Just nip them up, that's all they need. You want to do it evenly as well, so don't just nip them up a little bit and then go back over them to finalise them all. So before we put this back on, we'll go and change the oil filter. It just gives us a little bit more access while this is off. So we'll set this to the side. This here's the new oil filter, and this is a Crossland oil filter. Crossland products are quite good. I've used Crossland quite a lot, never had any problems with them. I've not heard any bad problems with them, so they've always done me a good turn. So we'll get this put on just now. There's a little bit of dust on it, so I'm just going to give it a little clean first. So we're just going to fit the new oil filter. Before we do that, I'm just going to give the area a wipe with a cloth, just to get rid of any dirty oil and maybe bits of dirt that's been put on there for us moving around doing things. A lot of people use brake cleaner on this part. It's a bit dodgy. You really need to, when you use brake cleaner on parts that come into contact with oil, you really need to make sure that the brake cleaner's completely wiped off clean. I would rather use diesel when cleaning parts like this, because brake cleaner, when it comes into contact with your oil, it will just break it right down and it will just become useless. So I'm just going to give it a wipe with a clean cloth. This part isn't really dirty, so I don't really need to use any diesel or anything like that. So that's nice and clean now. It's a new oil filter. Now these do need to be torqued on. They're not really torqued to a high level. I don't use a torque wrench. I really should get myself one. We'll screw this on just now and then we'll use a chain and we'll get it nipped up. There we go, that's nice and tight. Again, not too tight. You just want to nip it up ever so slightly and that should be enough. So you'll probably get a better view when I'm fitting the air filter housing back on. So that's the pipe going into the turbo, and this is the pipe feeding air into the airbox. So this here just fits into that little bit there. It's just a case of pushing it down in place, just being gentle because everything's made of rubber. And I know there should be a clamp on here, but that's missing. So I've got a clamp missing, so I just use a cable tie. Just push the turbo pipe on there. Just like that, and then cable tie. Tell you something, this fan's held together with cable ties, but it runs good. It's absolutely solid. Good fan. That's that in place. Just need to put the air feed in now. Just like that. Easy peasy. Air filter. So that's where oil's all drained out now. Still a little bit, well, it's actually just oil coming through the guard, I think. But that's most of the oil being drained out of the engine anyway. So what we'll do is we'll do the sump plug back up, and then we'll top it up with some oil. Another good thing to note as well is when you're doing a service, a lot of people, well, it's actually best practice to replace the copper ring around the sump plug. A lot of people just change the sump plug, and again, that's even better practice. It is good to do these sort of things, but I'm not really well prepared. I never am. I usually just buy the minimum stuff, oil, filters, things like that. So we'll get the sump plug in place just now. And another thing as well, with the ring, you'll see when you have a really close look at this, you'll see that it isn't the same on both sides, and that's because just right here on the shoulder, it's kind of tapered. So this is shaped in a way that it sits in there nicely, nice and snug, and creates a nice seal. If you put the ring on the wrong way, you'll see that there's quite a gap. Don't know if you can see it actually. See the gap? But then if I take the ring off, turn it around. Completely flat. Just bear that in mind when you're putting your sump plug back on. If the ring comes off, just make sure you're putting it on the right way. So again, when we're putting the sump plug in, we'll turn it to the left, turn it lefty-loosey until it clicks, and that means we're in a thread. A lot of people just put it in and fire it straight on and end up tearing the threads to pieces. We'll also give this area a little clean so that it just makes things a bit easier for us. I'll take that pot out. And you need to dispose of old oil the correct way. You can't just put it down your toilet or down the drain. That's absolutely mental. Don't ever do that. We're best taking it to a recycling place, but because of lockdown just now, it's going to be really hard to find a recycling place that will serve the public. So I'm just going to put it into a drum, seal it up, keep it in my shed until I can get rid of it properly. There we go. They don't need a lot of torque. This one, again, I always know the kind of amount of force I need to put into it. With this one, I know exactly how much force to put into it, but I would never rely on that. If I'm giving advice, I would tell you always use a torque wrench. It's my 1/2 inch ratchet that I lost. A lot better than trying to use a breaker bar. Sometimes you can overdo it with a breaker bar. There we go. So that's that. I'll put some oil in it, I'll run it, and then I'll turn the engine off and I'll fill it up to the maximum. And then I'll just do a visual check underneath here just to make sure there's no leaks coming from the sump or anywhere else. So just make sure it is absolutely spotless clean before you do your checks. So the oil we're going to be using today is 5W30 engine oil, and I use a funnel to put it in. I just made this out of an old bottle. This one's got black tape on it, that's for oil. That one's just clear, that's for coolant. And after every time I use the oil one, I just give it a clean out with some diesel, and that seems to do the job. The coolant one doesn't really get cleaned out, I just give it a wipe, and that seems to do the job. So we'll get set up just now. This fan takes about 4.5 litres. So what we'll do is we'll short fill it, we'll put about 4 litres in it, we'll run the engine, and then we'll switch it off, let it cool down, check the markings on the dipstick, and if need be we'll add more, which I know we will. We'll need to add maybe about 1/2 litre, but it's always safe just to put less in, and it's better than putting more in, because if you put more in then you need to drain the whole system again, or try and drain parts of it and put the sump plug at. Oh, it's just a mess, I'll not get into it. So anyway, we'll get started. So you should always keep a bit of tissue just somewhere safe in the engine for checking the dipstick, and bring it out, give it a wipe. Okay, so that looks quite good. It's you usually get a bit about that size, and the oil's to be anywhere in there. Usually close to the top of the box. Our oil is about there, so we need to top it up another 1/2 litre, I would say. back under the car again, and we're just going to take this part off here, and that'll get us access into the radiator. So we can take one of the hoses out, just so it lets us drain all the coolant out, make sure it's completely empty. And these here are 10mm. So now we can get a right good look at the radiator, and we can see what hose we're going to take apart. Okay, so the hose that's closest to the ground is away in here. It's away in this corner here. So it's a case of just putting the bucket under and just trying to catch as much coolant that falls out. So the type of clip that's on the hose, we need a screwdriver to get in and just pry it apart. Just get a rag and clean most of this up. Just to show you what pipe I undone. There's the radiator in there, seen better days. And that pipe, that one there, connects onto this part here, and that goes down and into the bottom of the radiator. So we just need to connect that pipe back onto there with that clip, and then fill the coolant back up. Just be very careful when you're working on coolant hoses. They're quite easy to tear, especially if they're old. If they've been on the car for some time, they can be quite brittle. So just be really careful when you're working with them, especially when you're putting the clips back on, because you'll need to use a pair of pliers. Just be careful not to nick the hose. "9 minutes that took me." Ideally you want the front bumper off, but I had this bumper off for quite some time, and then I had to put it back on. And it's held together with cable ties and string, so I don't want to take it off. But that's alright, that's the pipe back on. There's no accidents, didn't burst the pipe or anything. The clip's back on, so all's good. Time to fill it up with some coolant, and we'll run the engine and we'll check for any leaks. There shouldn't be any leaks because the Wildman done it. And we'll check the oil level again. So that's everything been done. The engine's cooled down. I've checked the oil, checked the coolant. Everything's absolutely fine, nothing needs topped up. I've put the remnants of the coolant and the oil in the back of the van just in case I ever need it. But everything's looking good so far. We'll now top up the screen wash. There we go. So that's the service done, and yeah, so that's the service done. Packed up all my toys, all my tools, and I took a little test drive there, maybe about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's running really good, nice and smooth. I don't expect any different. As I says, it gets serviced every 6 months, so it's a well looked after van, a really good motor, really good engine. But if you've not serviced a car for a very long time, like tomorrow, I'll be changing the oil in a car that's not had its oil changed in over 5 years. We'll see a big change in the way it drives, its performance, its throttle response. So yeah, but anyway, that wee van, that's had a lot of work done to it, so it's running really good. Couldn't change the diesel filter as it was the wrong one. They've gave me the wrong one. Bit gutted about that, but what can you do? These things happen. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate that. If you like the video, of course like it. If you've any questions at all, or if you just want to have a dig at me for something I've done wrong or whatever, comment, I don't care. And if you've not already subscribed, then subscribe. Anyway, thank you very much, really appreciate it. See you in the next video. Stay safe, take care.